I'm Stevie Deegan, and this is SPED721 Summative Assessment Inclusive Classroom Project. 1. Museum Profile, Setting the Context. Welcome to Pilgrim Hall Museum. They are located at 75 Court Street in historic Plymouth, Massachusetts. The Pilgrim Society was founded in 1820 to preserve Plymouth's unique history, and in 1824 opened the doors of Plymouth Hall Museum to the public. It is the oldest continuously operating public museum in the country and America's Museum of Pilgrim Possessions. Pilgrim Hall's extraordinary collection of 17th century artifacts, some of which actually came on the Mayflower, illuminates the story of early Plymouth colony. It's an intimate story of families of differing cultures and of courage in the face of great difficulties. In many ways, it's the story of the founding of America. Plymouth Hall Museum is accredited by the American Association of Museums. This is one of the highest honors a museum can receive. Accreditation certifies that a museum operates according to professional standards, manages both its collections and its finances responsibly, and provides a quality experience for the visitor. Of over 15,000 museums nationwide, fewer than 800 have received accreditation. The Pilgrim Society is a nonprofit educational institution. It is funded through admissions, memberships, and donations. Membership in the Pilgrim Society is not genealogical. They warmly welcome anyone who shares in their goals and appreciates the heritage of the Pilgrims. The Pilgrim Society is governed by officers and a board of trustees elected by the membership at the annual meeting of the Society, held in its halls on December 21st each year. A professional staff runs the daily operations of the Pilgrim Hall Museum. The mission of the Pilgrim Society and Pilgrim Hall Museum is to achieve worldwide awareness of the Pilgrim sacrifice and the story of early Plymouth as an enduring narrative of America's foundings. Through preservation, exhibition, and education, the Society is committed to telling this story with historical accuracy, inclusiveness, and recognition of the diversity and multicultural context of America's colonial beginnings. The Pilgrim Society, established in 1820, runs the museum. The museum tells the story of the Pilgrims in Plymouth colony. Architect Alexander Paris designed the museum building, which is built of Quincy granite and opened in 1824. Russell Warren constructed a wooden porticio in 1834, which had Doric columns supporting a triangular pediment. The museum was extensively upgraded in the 1880s and a library wing added in 1904. In 1922, the original wooden porticio was replaced by the present six-column Greek Reveal temple front, which was designed by McKim, Mead, and Wood. In 2008, an addition was added to the museum along with a new sign, activities, and advertising throughout the downtown area. Its building was listed on the National Register of Historic Places in 1972. The Pilgrim Hall Museum contains artifact collections, artwork, a library, and archives. Prominent pieces include Pilgrim-era artifacts such as the original Brewster chair and a 1651 portrait of Edward Winslow, the only known contemporaneous Pilgrim portrait. The museum owns the remnants of the Sparrow Hawk, the only known remains of a transatlantic 17th century ship which wrecked off Cape Cod in 1626. The Sparrow Hawk remnants are currently in storage. The top part of Plymouth Rock sat in front of the building from the 1830s to the 1880s, when it was reunited with the bottom half in Plymouth waterfront. A portion of the rock was remained at the museum, where visitors are currently permitted to touch it. The Pilgrim Hall Museum is welcome to the public. They often have field trip groups, families, and adults that visit the museum. With that being said, most of the typical demographic they attract are older, white, middle-class local citizens. There are memberships people can purchase to support the museum while gaining access to the exhibits without having to pay for a day pass. All of the memberships are currently being purchased by their typical demographic. The museum has gone under renovations to become in compliance with the Americans with Disabilities Act set building standards. There is an elevator that allows participants to access the various floors of the museum. Additionally, there is a ramp access to the building for anyone that has difficulty with the main entryway that is a flight of stairs. At this time, there is no special education supports that are made available to the public. The museum has a history of partaking in progressive agendas, such as being one of the first museums to have an exhibit educating participants about women's suffrage as well as their impact on American history. Throughout their exhibits, they aim to educate participants of not only the stories from the Pilgrims, but as well shedding light on the stories of the Wampanoag tribe to be inclusive to both sides of the history. 2. Learning environment. Museum design and assistive technology. Pilgrim Hall Museum is a gallery museum displaying Native American and Pilgrim artifacts to tell the story of the country's founding and traditions. Pilgrim Hall has two types of exhibits in the museum, permanent and temporary or changing. The permanent exhibit combines artifacts from their collections with historical information to illuminate the Pilgrim and Native American story to 1692 when Plymouth Colony came to an end. Visiting Pilgrim Hall's permanent exhibit is an excellent way to learn Pilgrim history. You will see Pilgrim possessions which came over on the Mayflower, including Peregrine White's candle, William Bradford's Bible, and Miles Standish's sword. You can enjoy a 15-minute orientation film, sit in a reproduction great chair, and make a rubbing of a copy of Josiah Wislow's gravestone. Pilgrim Hall also mounts changing temporary exhibits on topics of special interest. These exhibits are frequently built around an interesting segment of the collection or explore a particular Pilgrim-based theme as it evolves over time. Currently, the museum is displaying an exhibit that teaches participants about various women from the 17th century and their impact they had on history. There are 2 floors utilized to display the exhibits and artifacts. Each of these displays have placards consisting of descriptions and information behind each piece. The placards contain up to 150 characters, so the museum has to be very concise with the information they choose to share. There are 2 displays that utilize video with closed captioning to tell the story of various aspects of 17th century history. The first exhibit is set up on the first floor with a bench in front of the screen. The video is on a loop where they tell 5 different stories of women and their contributions during their lifetime. On the lower level, there is a video display where a narrator educates participants about the Pilgrim journey on the Mayflower, various tools and weapons, as well as a few stories about Native American culture. Both video displays have volume and corresponding closed captioning. Also on the lower level, there is an interactive exhibit. Participants are able to choose a specific date by pressing a button which will light up. Above the button board, there are short descriptions of events that happened. When a button is pressed, a corresponding light will light up where the participant will read about the event. There are 5 buttons or events in total. Due to COVID regulations, this exhibit has been rewired to alternate throughout the events on its own, so there is no possible contamination from touching the buttons. Currently, there is no use of assistive technology being used to help the participants navigate through the museum due to special need or disability. 3. Theory or practice. Equity through inquiry. Inquiry-based learning is an approach to learning that emphasizes the student's role in the learning process. Rather than the teacher telling students what they need to know, students are encouraged to explore the material, ask questions, and share ideas. Inquiry-based learning uses different approaches to learning, including small group discussion and guided learning. Instead of memorizing facts and materials, students learn by doing. This allows them to build knowledge through exploration, experience, and discussion. Inquiry-based learning actively engages students in the learning process. Students aren't just hearing or writing what they are learning. Instead, students get the chance to explore a topic more on their first-hand experiences. We retain 75% of what we do compared to 5% of what we hear, read, and write. Inquiry-based learning allows students to better understand and recall material by actively engaging with it and making their own connections. Now that we know more about this learning approach, let's take a look at the advantages and benefits of inquiry-based learning. 1. Enhances learning experiences for children. Sitting in a classroom taking notes isn't always the most effective or fun way to learn. Rather than memorizing facts from a teacher, inquiry-based learning enhances the learning process by letting students explore topics themselves. 2. Teaches skills needed for all areas of learning. As they explore a topic, students build critical thinking and communication skills. The cognitive skills that students develop can be used to improve comprehension in every subject, as well as in day-to-day life. 3. Fosters curiosity in students. An inquiry-based learning approach lets students share their own ideas and questions about a topic. This helps foster more curiosity about the material and teaches skills students can use to continue exploring topics they are interested in. 4. Deepens students' understanding of topics. Rather than simply memorizing facts, students make their own connections about what they are learning. This allows them to gain a better understanding of a topic than they would get by just memorizing and recalling facts. 5. Allowing students to take ownership of their learning. Students have the opportunity to explore a topic, giving them more of a sense of ownership over their learning. Instead of the teacher telling them what they should know, students are able to learn in a way that works for them. 6. Increases engagement with the material. As a form of active learning, this approach encourages students to fully engage in the learning process. By allowing students to explore topics, make their own connections, and ask questions, they are able to learn more effectively. And 7. Creates a love for learning. Inquiry-based learning is designed to teach students a love for learning. When students are able to engage with the material in their own way, not only are they able to gain a deeper understanding, they're able to develop a passion for exploration and learning. Assistive technology. The Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, IDEA, of 2004 says that assistive technology is any item, piece of equipment, or product system, whether acquired commercially off the shelf, modified, or customized, that is being used to increase, maintain, or improve the functional capabilities of students with disabilities. It includes both standalone devices and software and encompasses low-tech, no-tech, and high-tech options. Assistive technology, AT, can be a game changer for students with disabilities. When they're matched with the right assistive technology tool for them, they can better access curriculum, learning, and opportunities for success inside and outside the classroom. Assistive technology allows students with reading, writing, communication, visual, hearing, and mobility challenges to improve their functioning in the classroom. No-tech devices should always be tried first, as many of them suffice to meet a student's needs. For example, a teacher or occupational therapist can create a slant board to address writing challenges from a large binder, an AT device that only costs $1. Software for computers, tablets, and iPads range from free apps to expensive programs. To help offset the cost of potentially expensive AT, many states have AT device loan programs that allow students, families, and teachers to try out devices for free for a period of time so that they're able to find out the right AT before making a purchase. Even though there's a lot of technology available for people with disabilities, it isn't always implemented that much in our school systems today. And there are a lot of reasons for that. One is that people who work with students with disability, this could be teachers, parents, paraprofessionals, often aren't aware of the technology that is available to them. and then technology is not always included in the planning process. If they have access to computers, they can take their own notes. They can take their own tests, they can write their own papers, they can use the internet and do their own research. These are things that they couldn't do in another way. They need to practice these independent skills so that they can move on to college and on to careers. Many AT tools can be used at home as well as at school. AT is used in academic and learning, recreation, daily living activities, communication, mobility, and more. And if students use an assistive technology both at school and at home, their proficiency with it will increase, which leads to more opportunities for learning and success in both settings. Studies show that the earlier children are introduced to assistive devices, the quicker they master them. By introducing kids to technology early, it gets them better prepared and makes it easier down the road, and then they can spend the later years of their school focusing on content material and the curriculum. 4. Learning community. Building community and responding to behavioral support needs. In education, authentic learning is an instructional approach that allows students to explore, discuss, and meaningfully construct concepts and relationships in contexts that involve real-world problems and projects that are relevant to learner. In community-based learning programs, students are placed in community settings that offer them opportunities to learn a range of functional skills, including community-related skills, vocational skills, domestic skills, and functional academic skills. At the museum currently, they utilize visual displays with text-supported descriptions. They are also utilizing auditory supports with videos that have closed captionings. A way I would suggest to improve their current practices would be to take better consideration the various needs of participants with special needs and cultural differences. In the lower gallery, there is ill usage of lighting. For students with visual impairments, it will make it very difficult for them to access the curriculum. In order to support this, there will be a need for brighter lighting on all exhibits, allowing a clear view of the information. Also, this is an old building, so they are working with its original granite infrastructure. This creates less desirable acoustics, so for anyone that is hard of hearing or a sensory overload, this is not supportive. A way to better support this would be supplying those participants of need with an assistive technology such as headphones, either that are noise canceling or deliver the content auditorily. Lastly, in our community, there is a growing population of various cultural backgrounds and language needs. Using the headphones or a translation QR code, this will allow the content to be delivered in the participant's native language, allowing thorough access to the content. They could also provide key vocabulary translated and defined into various languages, supporting the learners to read the placards without being hindered by content-specific language. 5. Learning design, inclusive academic instruction. When determining the goals of a functional curriculum, teachers align goals to learning standards and examine the importance of each goal to students' current and future needs. They also consider the relevance of each goal to the student's age and current level of performance. Currently, the museum utilizes age and grade-appropriate treasure hunt activity sheets, clipboards, and pencils that are provided by the museum. These treasure hunt activity sheets are set up on thick matte cardstock in a brochure style. On these treasure hunt activity sheets, there is written information and questions based on where they are in the museum. They include images of maps and different exhibits or displays found in the museum. In order to make these activities as inclusive as possible, there is a need to incorporate various strategies in assistive technology. To start, the activity sheets need to be made available to work and explore online. This can be done with a QR code and the use of any smart technology, phone, tablet, iPad, etc. Allowing the participants to access the activity sheet virtually allows for greater use of assistive technology. The use of text-to-speech will help support understanding and access to the questions and information. When the participants are trying to express their knowledge, they need the ability to use typing, writing, drawing, and auditorily recording their answers. This will allow the participants to express their learning in the best way that suits them. I also think transitioning from the cut and dry answer questions will be beneficial. Incorporating more open-ended questions gives learners the ability for inquiry-based learning, where they can navigate their own learning and where it takes them. Discussion prompts would also be very beneficial. Supporting the participants to work with others opens doors and ideas that they may not have considered on their own. This also can clear up any confusion that may have arisen from this learning experience. One of the most important pieces, I think, would have questions that allow for connection. Connecting the curriculum to their lives or the world around us makes the learning valuable and will resonate at a much deeper level. 6. Special education, support for inclusion. A special education teacher is someone who works with children and youth who have a variety of disabilities. Children with special needs require unique instruction by specially trained professionals to help them achieve their highest potential and strive to progress beyond their limitations. At the Pilgrim Hall Museum, this is an area of weakness. There are no current policies and procedures that are being put in place to support learners with various needs. I believe it would be extremely beneficial to incorporate the expertise and strategies a special educator already has extensive knowledge of to best support all participants of the museum. When special education strategies are utilized, not only do learners with special needs benefit, but all participants can have a much more supportive learning experience than just navigating the museum at face value. These type of practices can be incorporated in almost every level of the museum, from the creation of exhibits, the environment, community-based events, and of course supporting the interaction with the content. Often there are specific cases where a learner with special needs meet unidentified barriers during learning experiences. Having a special educator on staff will help preventively identify these barriers, but also problem-solve strategies or solutions in order to supply access to this amazing content when they do arise. Without this expertise, a museum employee may not be able to effectively navigate these type of situations. Unfortunately, this segregates the learner, and they are not able to access the curriculum, which ultimately is unfortunate and unacceptable. 7. System change. Strategies for change. Inclusive education is not just a method of learning for those with special needs. It is necessary for all learners. Each individual learner is unique in his or her own way and has the right to learn in a general setting. It is our duty as educators to accept them and treat them equally amongst their peers. Ideally, all inclusive settings would be programmed so that students can learn together and from each other. I believe all students learn differently and have the ability to help teach each other more than we as educators give them credit for. Inclusion helps students learn empathy and value diversity, whether it be a disability or ethnicity. The implementation of inclusion helps create an enriched learning environment where diversified or differentiated teaching strategies with the use of modifications and/or accommodations benefit all. Effective inclusion strategies will help students understand how life in the community is not divided by people with disabilities and people without. They are all part of the same community. As a young child, I went on a field trip to Plymouth Plantation, and it was that day in my experiences where I fell in love with learning. I truly believe that museums and interactive learning experiences promote learning that cannot be attained in the classroom. The hands-on and inquiry-based approach is where learners can access knowledge that they may never have had the opportunity to. When effectively delivered and supported, these unorthodox learning environments can transcend students' enlightening exploration and passion for learning like it did for me so many years ago. Now beginning As a graduate student who has learned an extensive amount about learning styles and the benefits of inclusion, I cannot imagine not including these strategies in every learning experience. Thinking about a student who is so excited to learn, but then is hit with a barrier to no fault of their own, breaks my heart. This is why I think this work is so vital to make not only classrooms inclusive, but all learning environments as well. Resources. Thank you. And if you have any further questions, you can contact me at ddeegan@laselle.edu.